Hello and welcome to a quick video here just about the writing account question of the Schlieffen plan. So the Schlieffen plan has some really major consequences, and I thought we'd have a quick go at writing account question and see how it leads to a wider conflict. So let's have a go straight away at this question. Okay, so here is the question. It's quite an awkward question. It's writing account the failure of the Schlieffen plan. It's quite an awkwardly worded question because it's not really going anywhere with it, and the AQA are quite annoying when they do this. But it does make it open for you to do what you like, really. But I'd suggest the topic you're doing is conflict and tension, the First World War. So you really want to just talk about all the impacts around the First World War with the Schlieffen plan. Okay, so you've probably done this before, this writing account question. So just remind yourself then, what's the success criteria? What sort of things do you need to do to be successful with this? So pause me and just remind yourself about how to be successful with the writing account question. Jot your ideas down now. Okay, got some ideas. So firstly, just a reminder then, obviously, the writing account question, really, you need to be thinking it's an explain question. So you need to explain 2 points for 8 marks. We still use our P or paragraphs, point, evidence, explain, link, okay, or P paragraphs if that's what he's doing, but I'll explain the link to you as we go through. And what we can do is we can ignore the write account phrase and just do explain. So what we're doing is really the example is, and a part of the Schlieffen plan, and the explanation is the consequence of that event. So it's always talking about evidence and then consequence. So we can give an example like attacking through Belgium, then we can explain the consequence of that. Okay, so give some good examples of the Schlieffen plan and then explain the impact. Okay, and you should obviously try and give a wider link. So explaining 2 impacts if you can to get to 7 or 8 marks. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense. So let's think about the event Schlieffen plan, and then for each of them, how that increased tension or caused wider impact in the war or caused problems. Okay, how it led to issues. Okay, obviously the question is quite vague, so you can just sort of list consequences. All right, so what are the event Schlieffen plan? So jot your ideas down, and how did those widen the war, cause tension, cause problems? Jot your consequences down. Away you go. Have a plan now. Okay, so hopefully you pause me and you've got some ideas. So here's what I've written down as some of the key events. Obviously, General Mock changed the plan to invade through Belgium and Luxembourg and not Holland. That was the change before the event. The Belgians obviously resisted the German army advancing to attack France, so it was unexpected. And the Russians only took 10 days to mobilize, which obviously was unexpected as well. So how did these obviously increase tension for Germany, cause problems, widen the war? Basically, what consequence do they have? So German army, firstly, the German army in General Moltke's changes would have to advance quickly through this land to encircle the French. Any delay in the plan would fail. So the wide sweeping circles had been reduced. So the encirclement part of the plan was more challenging if the French had quickly turned around and come back to Paris to protect themselves or started to fight the Germans. So it was very difficult with the fewer sweeping armies to encircle the French. The Belgian resistance, of course, the force of Liège slowed the Belgians down for 5 days. This allowed the 100,000 strong British expeditionary force to arrive and stop the Germans at the Battle of the Marne. And of course, invading through Belgium, of course, led to the British declaring war anyway. And of course, the Russians got there earlier. So this meant 100,000 soldiers had to go east to protect against the Russian invasion, which again narrowed the encirclement and meant that the Battle of the Marne was a narrow sweep, and the German army hit the British and French at the Marne. So writing your answer then is quite simple. We're doing the point, evidence, explain, link, as I explained earlier. So we're looking, one way the Schlieffen plan failed was that we want to create an argument. Was that it allowed the British to invade and to slow them down? Was that the Russians invaded too early? Try and give an idea. Okay, so we need a point, we need some evidence, explain, link. So have a think of your first point. What are you going to argue? Try and make it early on in the event. So you've got that narrative, you've got that order. So obviously early events were obviously changing to the plan or Belgian resistance. Pick an early event and it becomes more, it does meet that narrative writing account response. So choose the first thing you think is a failure and then we're going to explain the consequence of it. So write your idea now. What's your first point going to be? Okay, so here's my point. You can self-assess with yours. So one way the Schlieffen plan failed was due to Belgium resisting the German army's attempt to attack France via Belgium. Okay, nice, easy one to deal with. For example, so what would be a good example here? What do the Belgians do? How does this impact the Germans? give an idea to back it up, or back up the idea you've given if you're giving a different idea. All right, looking for a good example with a fact in it. Okay, over to you. Okay, so for example, the Belgian army fought the Germans at the fort of Liège and slowed their advance down for 5 days. So 2 facts in there. Obviously, you've got Fort Liège, we've got the 5 days, got some facts and knowledge. I've shown the examiner, I've revised, I understand what I'm doing. Now I can explain the failure. This was a failure Schlieffen plan because, and I'm going to give the consequences, how this failed led to the failure of the plan. Okay, so pause and give your ideas now. Two sentences maybe of the consequences. Okay, so here's my ideas then. This was a failure Schlieffen plan because it meant that the British expedition force, 100,000 Russian soldiers, arrived and set up at the River Mons. Through a series of battles in the Mons region, using Lee-Enfield rifles and Vickers machine guns, they slowed the German advance even more. This gave time for the French army to return from the east and help secure Paris around the region of the River Marne. Okay, and obviously the Battle of Marne, obviously stopped the Germans in the end. So furthermore, it failed because we think of another aspect around this. Maybe it is the fact they failed at the Battle of Marne and started to dig in trenches. Okay, what do you think would be the next bit? Okay, so if you'd been doing a different answer to me, then have you got obviously a good impact like I have there? Lots of knowledge, lots of information. Okay, and obviously you're now thinking about a different furthermore. If you're going with the answer I've got, think about a furthermore. Okay, pause me and finish with a couple more sentences. Okay, so furthermore, it failed because General Moult had changed the original plan to advance through Holland as well. This reduced the circles to surround Paris from the west. Added to this, the slowness of the advance led to less of an encirclement of Paris. This meant the German forces all moved through the Marne region and could be stopped more easily by the French and British. A larger encirclement of Paris to the west would have made it difficult for the French army to arrive in time from the eastern border with Germany. Okay, so quite a complicated answer there. Looking at the general failure of the Schlieffen plan, obviously if you can understand that level of detail in the exam, you'll do a very good job. Okay, well, hopefully that's a useful paragraph to go through, and good luck writing your second paragraph. Do have a practice of it so you're well prepared. Quite often 2 or 3 of the questions I set end up in the exam, so make sure you've had a good practice, because you never know, it could be an exam and could really help you out. Okay, so keep practicing, keep working through the revision guide, and I'll see you again soon for another video. Bye bye for now.